So, in other words, those donuts were 75% off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys bought day-old donuts. We opened this week with Madoka revealing to her team that she decided to forgo her study abroad because they didn't make a big enough deal of it last week, so I guess they had to bring it up here? Well, that and they needed to set up a conflict for Elena, who, unlike Madoka, still hadn't decided what she wanted to do after graduation. The two continued their conversation on their ways home, and oh wow. I'm already missing having Kaneda around to direct the animation. Anyway, while Elena did somewhat figure out her plans for the future, a part of her still was unsure whether or not she was actually going to act on them. Later, she was surprised to find her mother having come home early for a change and making dinner. On top of that, they received some gifts from her clientele. As usual, Elena was impressed by her mother's accomplishments as a translator who could bring smiles to people of different cultures. Unfortunately, she couldn't revel in such for long as Kaede received an urgent call from work. Let me guess, Hibiki is going through another angst phase and you have to provide backup. Oh boy. While her younger kids were sad that she couldn't stick around, Elena insisted she go and that she would be able to take care of dinner. And with that, we somewhat awkwardly cut over to the next day at a parent-teacher conference with Elena and Kaede. I mean, yeah, they kind of talked about it in the last scene, but to have a scene where Kaede leaves Elena only to transition to a scene where the two are together again feels more than a little rushed. Well, in any case, when the teacher asked if Elena had any plans for the future, she said she didn't have anything just yet. Wait, why am I getting a sense of deja vu? Maybe it'll hit me later. After the conference, Hikaru and Lala arrived to invite Elena to eat their not at all shady 75% off donuts. And in a reversal of the previous scene, Kaede insisted her daughter go hang out with her friends. But the writers never gave me a character, so I have no idea what I want to do. Yeah, seriously, tell me that's not written all over her face. The team partook in their fried rings of dough at Lala's ship, with Prudsu, of course, enjoying them to the point that he was thinking of spraying the word out all across his home galaxy. Uni pointed out that some planets might not exactly gravitate towards the high-calorie confections. Yeah, tell that to the planet of diabetics. This led into Prunsu bragging about the fact that he was once a translator for the Galactic Alliance while producing a very cure gorilla face. Because of course, we all want to be reminded of the fact that these two took third place in the pre-cure popularity polls. Anyway, while Elena was impressed by the multilingual slime, our supposed main character and mascot character were facing a major conundrum. What artery clogging confection should they consume next? I don't freaking care! The latter was particularly aggravating, as she somehow reduced the importance of the star pens even more by simply making them tools for what sweet she wanted next. Correction! This is going to become the planet of diabetics. Seriously, I hate to be that guy, but this franchise really needs to start encouraging better eating habits. So, after that aggravatingly pointless scene, we moved on to, I guess, a slightly less pointless scene between Elena and Madoka. The latter thanked her friend for helping her through her problems from last week and wanted to return the favor. Oh yeah, the conflicts of the sun and the moon are kind of redundant, aren't they? Seriously, even though these girls were originally on track to have their own unique storylines, for whatever reason, the writers decided to give them similar closing arcs. Then again, considering how underdeveloped both are, I guess they had to give them a dual scenario in order to support each other both in story and out. It's not necessarily a bad idea, as I do think this is kind of a touching scene between the two, but it really shouldn't have come down to this if the writers had just played their cards better. Anyway, speaking of regretful choices, Kaede was feeling bad that she couldn't spend more time with her family after seeing a mother and her kids going home together. This, of course, prompted Tenjo to arrive and use her stock summoning animation, which they really haven't used a lot in this series. In fact, I can't remember the last time they used it. Well, anyway, she turned Kaede into Airman for some reason. Don't know how that relates back to translating if it's supposed to. Well, in any case, despair-ridden, or rather, warped imagination-ridden, Kaede revealed the source of her anxieties. And surprisingly, it really wasn't her whole family, but more specifically, Elena and her insincere smile. So wait, are they taking advantage of the fact that Elena is a highly underdeveloped character? Well, points in this episode for making do with what it's got. But yeah, she could tell that Elena was often hiding behind her so-called smiles and repressing most of her negative emotions. Thus, kind of proving Tenjo of all people right. Elena was kind of naive when it came to her philosophy of smiles. After all, what's the point of a smile when the biggest one is a fake? The rest of the team soon arrived and they all transformed. Honestly, I think one of them shouldn't have, but we'll get into that in just a minute. In any case, while her friends dealt with the mooks, Elena faced her literal monster parent alone. It didn't go so well, as Tenjo further dressed down her rival and eventually cornered her, though also setting her up for a big comeback. Honestly, I thought they were going to have Elena fail her transformation to really hammer home her despair, but still, I guess they really wanted to give her a big speech moment of this episode. Or they could just let Monica do it for her, sure. Yeah, I guess since they're saving Elena's twinkle imagination moment for next week, they're just gonna have Madoka cover for her, while also not really justifying Elena's insincere smile. Seriously, why is it that this show is making me side with Tenjo of all characters? Anyway, thanks to the words of her enabler, Elena stood up and used one of her indistinguishable attacks. Seriously, why do the Libras get this treatment? And they finished her off with their usual cult chant and everything. Though, for all my complaints just now, they at least wisely ended this week on a bittersweet note, as because they didn't really address Elena's fake smile and how it made her mother quietly suffer, Elena would now need to carry that guilt on her shoulders as she made her way back home. While I can praise this episode's writer Mitsutaka Hirota, again best now Murayama writer on the show, for actually taking advantage of a difficult situation and giving Elena character development, I do still think it's indicative of the show's poor planning in that we really should have gotten an episode like this a lot sooner. As well, next week is also going to be an Elena episode. On a side note, nice job spoiling the big twist there, guys. Still, for as much shade as I do throw on her, I don't really dislike Elena. I'm just frustrated with how directionless her character arc has been. It feels like they tried to apply many different traits onto her, but failed to really develop most of them. Be it as a big sister, a girl struggling with racial identity, and now as a Stepford smiler. With that last one at least, they do seem to be trying to consolidate all of it into one last convoluted arc. Still, I do think Hirota did the best he could with what he was given. Yes, there were moments in this episode where it did feel either rushed or completely pointless, but he also did somewhat take advantage of Elena's underdeveloped character to justify the idea of her having an insincere smile. You could retroactively say that she has a tendency to bottle up everything, thereby hiding much of her true self that we might see more of next week, so I'll hold off on my final judgments. For now, I'll just say they could have done a lot more with this character. Maybe they just needed someone like Kaede to improve communications between the writers and put together a much more solid narrative for this entire show. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving and that you didn't eat too much. I know of one Precure viewer who's gonna have to hit the gym for a couple of hours after he uploads his latest review. Regardless, here's the fun times with friends and family, as well as plenty of leftovers for the next few days. As soon as I finish on my leftovers, I'm going to get back to work on a search and review that I'm not going to name just yet, but look forward to it either way. And until then though, farewell for now my friends, And if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go make myself a moist maker. It's a real thing, look it up, it's delicious.